Hello and welcome to Eden Live, where I am reading all of Eden by FREI live on Facebook and on YouTube, with the recorded clips then making their way onto Instagram, IGTV. Now, if you are about to have a déjà vu moment, then worry not. It is actually the fact that I'm about to do exactly what I did yesterday. I'm going to redo yesterday's webcast. Because the picture quality on yesterday's webcast was so bad that it really wouldn't stand up to be linked to from the website. I mean, these things don't have to be perfect. This is obviously done from a living room with a laptop, but still, it would be nice to be able to at least see what's going on. And so I'm rereading now today what I did yesterday. So if yesterday you watched live, or in fact, if you have watched yesterday's episode since then you may wish to skip today, or you can also, of course, listen again if you feel like it. You are most welcome either way. And whichever is the best take, we then keep and link to from the website. We are, as I said yesterday, and as I've said before, into a completely new register today. We are into volume 9 of the Eden Miniatures series, which is the published paperback and ebook published version of Eden by FREI, the concept narrative in the here and now about the where, the wherefore, and forever. And volume 9 is called Encounters, and it is about real life encounters. These are all events that actually happened. This is nothing in here is made up, if you like. There is plenty that's made up if you entertain a notion of things being made up in Eden by FREI, but this is all real life encounters that actually happened. And but rather than me explaining why they are here and what they are doing here in the overall structure, I think I will simply proceed by reading them to you, because this is, after all, where I am reading all of Eden by FREI live on Facebook and on YouTube. And so let's dive into Encounters with the first chapter in this volume, in volume 9, which is called, the first chapter is called Ponderage. There are, I come to realize, an infinite number of infinities. When I put this to my young mathematician friend as a question, he interprets it mathematically and gives me an explanation I do not comprehend, but of which I have a faint feeling it appertains to something entirely different, though nonetheless relevant and important. Maybe I did not phrase my question well, and he did not understand it. Or very possibly, he did fully understand the question and gave me a perfectly valid answer, but one that makes sense to his young mathematician mind more than it does to mine, which is twice as old and really not scientific at all. I have enjoyed my young mathematician friend's company, and I miss him and think of him often. He has a lovely smile, though it be slightly downward inclined, which makes him look just a tad sceptical when he smiles. Then again, he is a mathematician, so he has every right to be sceptical, and his smile is no less lovely for it. I am fairly convinced that since there are more infinities than just one, there may well be several, and if there are several, there may well be many. And if there are many, then conceptually it strikes me as obvious that most likely there are an infinite number of infinities. Not being a mathematician or at all scientifically minded, I only know of 3 infinities, 2 of which are of the same kind, and a third that is of an entirely different kind. The reason I know that there are more infinities than just one is that there is the infinity of rational numbers, which perch on the unending line in the plus-minus direction, where you can always add one more or take one more away. This means you, in a sense, already have 2 infinities, a positive and the negative one, but they are in character the same and should therefore probably be considered, if not one, then of one ilk. But there are also the irrational numbers, which, like anchor points or switches on that line stretching from negative infinity into positive infinity, branch off into another direction or even dimension by leading into the unending sequence of never repeating numerals after the decimal point, which we can't simply add to or take away from, but have to calculate, and which is therefore specific but unpredictable, but predictably unending. So simply looking at these two types of infinity, which are easy enough to understand, though they may not be instantly recognizable, my hunch is chances are there are perhaps, I would venture quite probably, so probable as to seem certain, other infinities that may be even less easy to recognize, but that are nonetheless real as these two, which could be looked on as three. And so, since there are an infinite number of numbers and an infinite number of ways we can configure these numbers to express an infinite number of things, there are likely, I like to think, to the level of this being probable, and in fact possibly quite so probable as to seem certain, not just 2 or 3 or 4 or 1 or 2 dozen, but an infinite number of infinities, not least because there are bound to be an infinite number of universes. The thought that there are an infinite number of infinities to me is beautiful because I like the idea of infinities, but it is also tiring because while I can imagine the 1 or 2 infinities that I'm already familiar with, I can barely conceive of any beyond that. And right now, I wish I could have my young mathematician friend with me and curl up with him just to feel his calm body in the presence of his beautiful mind and know that there is someone who may not see the world quite as I do, but who can handle abstraction and make something of it. We spent some time together at the Science Museum and on my terrace and in my bed. And then he goes back to Austria, where he's from. And I think this is true. We actually met on a park bench in Kensington Gardens. It feels like we've known each other for years, but we really just met last Thursday by the Italian fountain when he asked me for a light and we talked and exchanged numbers. I lost sight a little of my young mathematician friend after he left London. But he didn't entirely escape from my mind, and so we met up again a few months later, this time in Vienna. That was a little strange, because now a few things had happened, none of them to do with me, that had troubled this beautiful mind of his. And while he was better again, in fact, well, I now worried about him, and we talked about all manner of things, but not infinities. And then we spent a whole night together, first going out, drinking many pints of stout in an Irish pub, and then at a nice little hotel, and I thought no more of or about it until it occurred to me that this probably is what most of life is mostly about. Chance encounters and where we take them, if anywhere at all. We didn't take our encounter much further, my mathematician friend and I, but that matters not. What matters is merely that we made ourselves some memories on the pinprick of an infinite number of possibilities. And for that alone, I like him still. And that is it for the first chapter indeed, in volume 9 of Eden by FREI, volume 9 being called Encounters, which is about encounters in the real world, in real life. Whatever you make of the word real, I know it is a relative term, to say the very least, or maybe a construct, but be that as may, you can read all about it. In fact, you can read this online. It's still online for free. You can, of course, also purchase these books, but you can read this all for free online at Eden by FREI, one word, Eden by FREI, FREI.net. And I hope you'll join me again. I do this on a twice-weekly basis, normally on a Monday and a Wednesday, because today's a re-recording of yesterday's. It's Tuesday today as it happens, but since most of you catch these in your own sweet time when you come across them anyway, it doesn't really matter. I just hope that you will find me again if you found this worthwhile. And until then, I wish you a good few hours, days, months, or years, whatever may be the case. And whatever may be the case, I hope you are able to stay well and keep healthy and well, and take good care, and love and let love, and see you very soon. Bye-bye.